So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and the Syndicate weapons have finally arrived, and I must say, I am impressed. Instead of just making a better version of the old weapon and giving it a Syndicate proc, DE basically let the community design a unique effect for each one of the weapons. Now the reason why I decided to check out the Telos Boltace first is because it's the weapon that I find the most interesting. So its unique mechanic, as you can see on the screen right now, is whenever you do a slide attack, it will pulse a pretty sizable AoE that will damage everything around you. This AoE damage is affected by mods. It is considered a slide attack, so it is affected by Maiming strike, and it has 100% status chance. The only bad thing about the AoE pulse is that it doesn't count towards your combo counter, so even if you hit 10 enemies with the pulse, it will not count towards your combo counter unless you hit the enemies with the Boltace. But I do understand why DE did it, because the combination of Maiming strike with blood rush and body count would be straight up overpowered with the amount of range this weapon has on its slide attacks. Now to get the new Syndicate melee weapons, you have to be the highest rank with the appropriate Syndicate, so if you want to get the Telos Boltace, you have to be the rank of Maxim with the Arbiters of Hexis, and each one of the melee weapons costs 125,000 standing. And you also have to be Mastery rank 8 or higher. Now overall, the Telos Boltace is an upgrade over the original Boltace because it has higher crit multiplier of 200% versus the original's 150, higher critical chance of 10% versus the original's 5%, higher attack speed of 1.08 versus the original 0.917, and while it does the same damage as the original Boltace, the damage distribution is a little bit different. It does less slash damage of 4.2 versus the original's 8.5, and it does higher puncture damage of 72.3 versus the original's 68. And other than that, the status chance is still 25%, which is pretty decent, but then again, the slide attack has 100% status chance, which I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but hey, it's awesome. And that's pretty much it. So overall, the Telos Boltace is a very solid melee weapon. Now the build I chose for the Telos Boltace, of course, focuses on the slide attack, and it's just a 1 Forma build, and all I did with that Forma is add 1 V. However, if you don't have primed pressure point, this is going to be a 0 Forma build. You don't need to add any Forma if you're just using regular pressure point, which is pretty awesome. Now the stance is of course going to be Jiminy Cross because we don't have any other stances for Tomfas, so Jiminy Cross is kind of a no-brainer, primed pressure point for more damage, and then 3 elemental mods based on the faction I'm going up against, and most of the time for me it's going to be Shocking Touch and Fever Strike for corrosive damage, and Molten Impact for heat damage. Then I'm using Spot Strike, which does slow down the slide attack animation a little bit, but for me that's not that big of a deal because it's still pretty fast, but I like it because it adds a raw melee damage, and raw melee damage is added to slash procs, and I will talk about this later a little bit. Then I'm using Reach to get more range on the slide attack, and I'm not quite sure it affects the pulse because it's pretty hard to tell. But even if it doesn't, it's still really good because you can hit the enemy with the AoE pulse and your Boltace at the same time doing double damage, and having Reach makes that far more likely. Now, if you have primed Reach, which I don't unfortunately, I would definitely recommend using it over the regular Reach, but that will require 1 more Forma, which personally I would use to add another V where the Reach mod is. Then we have Maiming Strike, which is the most important mod on this setup, which adds 90% critical chance on slide attacks. And this is a flat 90% critical chance. It doesn't increase the base critical chance. So, if you have the Maiming Strike on the Telos Boltace, which has 10% critical chance, when you do a slide attack, you will have 100% chance to crit. And since we have 100% critical chance on our slide attacks, we're going to use Organ Shatter to give us a higher critical multiplier. This setup is absolutely mental. You do a slide attack, you crit everything around you, and if something dares to survive, they probably have a slash proc from the 100% status chance, and they will bleed to death anyway. This is why I'm using Spot Strike. Not only does it give me more damage so I do higher crits, but it also increases the slash damage, because raw melee damage mods are the only thing that increase the damage done by slash proc. Physical damage mods or elemental mods don't, so basically just Spot Strike, Pressure Point, and some of the augment mods. If you can't tell, I absolutely adore this weapon, and it's not just because it reminds me of the good old days of coptering around. It's just an awesome weapon. It's so much fun to finally run a good weapon that doesn't have to rely on blood rush body count, so you don't have to sit there and go like, oh my god, I need to hit something, or my combo counter may drop. I love it. Now, I know people are gonna ask, where the hell do I get Maiming Strike? Well, it drops from the Acolyte, so right now the only thing you can do is to trade for it with other players, and the price, at least on Warframe market, seems to be somewhere between 100 and 300 platinum. So yeah, if you don't have it and you want it, you will have to buy it. I wouldn't really recommend waiting for the acolytes to show up again, because, well, no one knows when they're gonna show up again. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you try this build out. It is a lot of fun and it is pretty powerful as well. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.